I talked about education and how alternative education is a really great way to, sort of foster heroism in kids. Um, yeah. So I was just finishing up with school. I was about to go into university, and that's sort of where I was at that time.
That's where you were. Hey, Ethan, good to see you.
Matt, how's it going?
Good.
It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. So tell us, Hannah was just telling us where she was. She was at the second Hero Roundtable. You were at the first.
Okay.
And
yeah,
you were,
OG.
Were you 14? Does that make sense?
I asked my parents and they said I was 13. So
13, okay.
Yeah,
so
I think that's what it was, yeah.
Okay. It was the end of 2013.
Okay.
So yeah, tell us what was your life then 6 years ago?
Woo! It's a lot different. It was a lot simpler. It was going to school, and it's not like going to school in college. You're just going to school to sit in a desk and talk to your friends while your teacher's lecturing, and then you had soccer practice, which was, just for the fun of it. But lot more going on in life these days than back then, that's for sure. And so those were simpler times, to say it again. So
and you were there to talk about charity ball. What was your
Yes, sir.
Tell everyone about that.
Yeah, so I got invited by you. We had a relationship. When did we meet? Was that 2000?
I don't know.
So 10 or no? Anyways, we sat down at a coffee shop, and you talked to me about coming and being a part of the first Year Roundtable, and I was stoked. I was excited. I kind of just went in, and I think I was kind of naive about it, and so it was just ready to tackle it. And now I have a presentation in one of my business classes, and I get the butterflies in the stomach. I'm like, what am I worried about? I did this when I was 13. So you were awesome enough to allow me to speak, and was able to share a little bit about Charity Ball, the organization, how it started, some of the things that I've been working on at the time. Been able to help a lot of kids, and it was good. Got to meet a lot of young people at the conference too, who came up to me and introduced themselves, and so some good connections there. People that I still keep up to it today, at least on social media, seeing some of the tweets coming across the platform from Adam Hartley, great guy. So,
nice.
You
I distinctly remember some probably 11 or 12-year-old girls tugging on my shoulder, say, "Can you introduce me to Ethan?"
That was funny. I remember that too. I think it was at the dinner or something like that, and they came up and they wanted to get some pictures.
Yeah. Jeremiah, welcome. You're muted. Yeah, there you go.
Hello. I've been on Zoom all day, so I should have known I'm muted. Got out of class. I apologize for being late.
No problem. Hannah and Ethan just introduced themselves and why they were at the Hero Roundtable the first time, and sort of what their life was at that point. Can you do the same?
Sure. Yeah. So that was back in 2013, and life was pretty crazy. So I had an anti-bullying, or I had then and still now, an anti-bullying organization called West High Bros, and I renamed it, rebranded, because it spread all across the world. And I thought in 2013, November, I thought, okay, we've probably reached the peak of our spread, because at that point we were in, I think like 50 countries and 30 languages around that time. But then we doubled it in the next year. And so I thought, oh yeah, okay, so we definitely didn't reach our peak back in November of 2013. But the Hero Roundtable was super fun back in 2013, especially meeting Dr. Zimbardo, because I'd read about him, and I mean, it's still crazy that like he also didn't reach his peak with the Stanford Prison Experiment. Like, that's what everyone knows him for, but like that was really just the start of his work. It was really cool to see how he used that experience and learned from that experience, and can continue to do much cooler things and much more impactful things for the study of heroism.
Right on, right. So Hannah, I'm really glad you could be here, and I'm going to hit all of you for some individual questions, and Thomas and Eric, if you want to jump in with questions, feel free. And Christy, you don't know these people, but they're pretty great people. Hannah, so many parents now are having to deal with the intimidating idea of teaching their kids at home for 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is, and you had that experience for 6 years or more. What's I don't even know what question to ask. What advice could you give parents, I think, at this point, who are worried or who are trying to replicate the school experience and thinking that they have to teach from 9 till 3 each day?
Well, maybe start with taking a deep breath and then don't try to replicate the school experience. I don't know. I've been thinking about this a lot lately. Homeschooling, unschooling, world schooling, all of these things, they're not the same as crisis schooling, which is what people are essentially doing right now. And I don't think any of us really have experience with this kind of education where people are just thrown into it. They don't necessarily have the resources. Yeah, I guess my advice would just be like, calm down, take a deep breath, and just do what feels good depending on the day, you know?
So what was your experience like then as a student of unschooling or travel schooling? What did your days look like?
Okay, so for me, it was a lot more structured than people would think it was. I did all of the basic things, you know, physics, chemistry, all of that. So I had books and I would do my learning in the mornings generally, maybe 4 or 5 hours of learning per day, and then go out and do the rest of my stuff. So my brother was into carpentry. He would do that. I did a lot of music, art, reading. Yeah. And
there were 4 of you kids, 3, 4?
Yeah.
And so how did that get managed? Were you all working at the same, were you all studying at the same time and then you'd all break at the same time?
Not generally. I was very much an early morning person, so I would get up and have my work done by like 12, whereas my brother Fitz would sleep. Like he would wake up at the time that I was finishing, and he would do his work in the evening. So that was fine once we were teenagers. When we were like little kids, we all did it at the same time, of course.
Right. And what about those resources? Where was your mum getting those resources? She's a big provider of resources now, but where was she getting them at the time?
At the time, I'm not sure. You'd have to ask her. But I know right now she's busily up here in her office all the time, tapping away, putting together resources for people right now. So I can send you the link to that after if you'd like.
Yeah, or if put it in the chat, that'd be great. I'm not sure how that comes out with the video and everything later, but yeah, I think I saw she posted a graphic the other day that I thought was really helpful with some advice. Yeah.
Well, I think now there are even more resources than there were when I was a kid. Like you can go anywhere online, YouTube, just Google stuff, you'll find things, you know, there's plenty to do.
Yeah, right. So Ethan, can you tell us what Charity Ball looks like now? You're muted.
Oh, there we go. You can hear me?
Yep.
There we go. All right, perfect. Yeah, these days, I'll tell you, it's it's a bit hectic. We've got a lot going on, a lot of things to manage, and being able to be at the forefront has been, you know, a bit difficult, especially with so many other things and responsibilities to take care of. But it's good. It's good for the organization, and to be able to help more people on a consistent basis is awesome, and that's what it's about. So you got to just be able to stay in touch with that. So for me, at least being home now, you know, because of coronavirus and the situation that we got going on, it's kind of cool because I get to spend more time working on those things and not being, you know, in school environment and having to play soccer too, going to practice and everything. But no, we're doing great. We honestly, right now in the coronavirus period, it's things are a bit tough But up until that point, it was going good. We had deliveries going out. But yeah, we're kind of on hold right now. We had, I think, 3 or 4 deliveries planned for the spring period that were canceled, obviously, due to travel. And we're focusing right now on a new campaign. It's called United 19, and we're working on coronavirus prevention and detection in some of the African communities that were set up in terms of making sure that people have access to clean drinking water. Because obviously, one of the biggest ways to stay safe is by washing your hands, and a lot of people just don't have access to clean water to even be able to do that. So yeah, that's kind of what we're working on. I'm kind of partnering with my dad's organization, Box, on that initiative. And so yeah, we and then with Charity Ball itself, we've kind of dipped into this new initiative called Level the Field. And last year, with the hype of the Women's World Cup, we spent a lot of time working with a design company out of New York called Salmon Design. And so what they did is a year previous to that, they had made this really cool soccer ball for the World Cup with a bunch of different designs on it. And we thought it was awesome. We reached out to them and decided to do like a collaborative project. And it's kind of evolved into a campaign, and now just a new part of Charity Ball. And it's, yeah, like I said, it's called Level the Field. And it's all about increasing equity and leveling the playing field for girls around the world. And I'm sure, as many of you know, girls don't have the same opportunity as guys to, do a lot of different things, but one of them being soccer. And so since it's what I'm passionate about and what the mission of Charity Ball is about, giving the game to kids, we decided to invest in the first ever of its kind women's soccer tournament in Rongo, Kenya. And so just a few months ago during the Christmas period, me and my family flew out there, worked with another family, and helped put on an awesome new tournament for girls, in addition to a tournament for boys. And we designed this really cool soccer ball here that I'll show you. I'm not sure if you've seen this. Matt, you've probably seen this on the gram, and I wanted to bring it out for you guys. But yeah, we've been able to do some really cool things and get some awesome individuals involved and working on new projects that I never thought would be possible. And now we're shooting for building a new pitch over in Rongo, Kenya too. And so that's the next big thing. It's ever since I started the organization, it's been a dream of mine to be able to build a soccer field that kids could play on for years and years to come. And to be able to have this opportunity and to embark on this mission is super, super amazing. So a lot of good things in the cooker.
Yeah, it's been a big. I think in 2013 you either had just run the tournament in Africa with the Dortmund player.
Yep, Nevin. Yeah, I think.
Or was it just after? Maybe.
I think it might have been just after. I think that was, it was summer of 2013, I believe, because 2014 was when we did our project with Johnson & Johnson. So it might have. I think it might have happened.
Yeah.
So.
And so, what's your team look like now? Have you got people in Charity Ball that are doing this with you now?
Yeah, we got some. We've had the help of some really cool volunteers over the past few years. Some local guys at Hope College here in town who have been generous enough to volunteer their time to help on a few different things here and there. But what has been great is to be able to pass the torch on to just kids. And this is mainly through the campaign structure of them hearing about the Charity Ball mission and wanting to start fundraisers on their own, and just taking it upon their shoulders to do, use what they love and raise money for the organization. And so we've had some fantastic projects and some really cool things happen about kids, giving up their birthdays to send money to Charity Ball, or girls making jewelry and selling it to raise money for Charity Ball. And so it's awesome, and it never ceases to amaze me. And the coolest thing is when I'm working at the office in the summer and you get a note from like a 5 or 6 year old, and they're still learning to make all the letters and learning how to write in school. And so you get these really, really cool letters in the mail and them saying, this is what I did, this is the project. And it's just, it warms the heart, and it's just it makes you realize, yeah, this is good. This is why we're doing what we're doing. So yeah.
Nice. So Jeremiah, what have you done since then? I know we've seen you again at a Hero Roundtable, and you were going to be in New York this weekend, but so you were there for West High Bros and flexing about talking to Lady Gaga, among other things. What have you been doing since then?
Oh, continued the anti-bullying work, and then also networked out into the world of anti-child slavery. So I'll talk about both of them. The continuation of the anti-bullying work has really been pretty interesting, because when we first really started expanding beyond just Iowa City, one of my big goals was, this is going to be a grassroots movement, and it's going to be very informal. I'm not gonna tell everyone, hey, this is what you need to do, A, B, and C. We aren't going to have a very formal structure. And I started transitioning from developing curriculum and operations for the different things I was doing to more troubleshooting. So people would come to me from the different affiliates that we had across the world, and they would say, hey, we're having a problem with this, and can we bounce some ideas off you? And then I'll give them my thoughts on it, give them some advice, but most of it was about just adapting it to the particularities of where they were operating. One big development in that is the proliferation of cell phones and mobile technology in Africa and South Asia. Especially in the last 5 years, we've seen pretty much everyone is getting cell phones. Pretty much everyone has access to mobile banking, mobile everything, and we're getting a lot more connected as a planet, which is really, really good, I think, overall. You have a lot of people who are getting services that they've never been able to get before. But there's always a bad side. Well, not always a bad side, but there's a bad side with this. And you see proliferation of cyberbullying pretty much in proportion to the spread of the internet and internet-capable devices. But then, as we're going on this roller coaster, as you see more cyberbullying, you see a lot more people fighting cyberbullying, and so it's been really cool to work in locations that we've never really worked in before. Frankly, most of the places we worked in before were bigger cities, or like they were like the regional metropolitan area. But now we're seeing a lot of activity in the most remote places on Earth, which is really cool and frankly pretty inspiring to see all these people stepping up and joining our network. But then with
sorry, did you say before you rebranded? What's the new brand?
Oh, so yeah, we did rebrand to Reverb, because we wanted to reflect reverberations of positivity, and how it's really a chain. How, like, when you see the physical representation of reverberations, you see they're all connected to each other, and they're all reaching their own peaks, they're all reaching their own things, but it's all connected together. And one informs another in any reverberation. And that rebrand happened 4 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 years ago, coming up on 4 years. Yeah, so that's how the anti-bullying work has continued, and it's been really fantastic. We've also spread out to, I forget if I still had this at the Hero Roundtable, or if I had started this at the Hero Roundtable, the first one, but we created a radio show, a suicide hotline, a lot of different things. We've expanded those too in the past 7 years. Then I also got into anti-child slavery. One thing that I was really interested in is how we can get community buy-in to fighting anti-child slavery, because a lot of times organizations, they'll take a kid out of a factory, or they'll take a kid out of any sort of institution that has child slavery, and the kid goes right back in because they're kidnapped, which is, I mean, basically just human trafficked, or they're just sold off. And one of the things that is really important to fighting that recidivism is getting community buy-in and having a lot of neighborly watchdogs, basically saying, hey, we're going to fight against child slavery. And so what we've been doing is going into taking the earning potential of a child from right now, from like the time that they're 5 or 6, and then giving them a greater earning potential once they're 18 and 19 by giving them hard skills. But those hard skills are also tied to just a classical education. So they learn science, math, stuff like that. And so our biggest supporters of that are actually the employers or the child enslavers, basically, because they can make more money per child when they're adults, but the kids themselves, they have the opportunity to choose their course of employment, and they would actually get paid once they're 18, 19, and so on.
Wow. How are you doing that specifically?
So we have a lot of, well, so it varies place to place, but I'll give you an example. So there's a popular way is using technology. So or tech education, sorry. So if you bring in tech education, and we have partners from a bunch of different Silicon Valley firms, Twitter, Facebook, a bunch of other organizations that have been wildly charitable with their resources, both money and tech support. So we bring in tech education to schools, and we establish our own schools there. And the children, they learn, like I said, math, science, normal schooling, but they also learn tech education. Then they're 18 and they get the choice to go to college. And then thanks to generous benefactors, their tuition's paid for at whichever institution they choose to go to. It helps that it's also largely in South Asia. So most of those countries have pretty low cost colleges, or they can choose to go into tech services. And the interesting thing is a lot of these tech services are in the buildings that used to be the jeans factory, that used to be the processing plant, that used to be where some of their worst nightmares would be if they worked there. But now those places are, well, they're all sorts of things. They're like tech support centers. They are software development areas. They fix all sorts of different tech issues, or they get contracted out to do different things.
Wow, that's great. Hannah, you have, since we last saw you, traveled the world, finished college. What's leading you now? I know you've just had a long travel interrupted, but where's your head now? What are you thinking about?
Well, I'm sort of in limbo, as I think many of us are at the moment, because of this virus and the way it shut absolutely everything down. But I'm still working with alternative education. The last couple of years, I've been working with the Family Adventure Summit, which is a group of families who all travel extensively or educate their children in some out-of-the-box kind of way. And they meet up in a different place in the world, and we have a great one-week conference and get to know each other, answer questions, all good stuff. So I've been working with the teens in that program. So I'll be doing that in September. So I guess that's the only thing that's sort of on my calendar now. Although I did absolutely fall in love with Turkey, and I really want to go back as soon as possible. So that's next as well.
So tell us a bit more about the Adventure Summit. It's kind of a network of families who go back to connect with each other, but it's also for parents who are maybe interested in starting that different.
All sorts of people come.
Yeah.
A lot of it, we have a lot of people who come multiple years in a row, so there's a very deep community there, but everyone's super welcoming. So each year we get many new families as well who are either just getting started, or we've actually had several couples come who don't have kids yet, and they're thinking about having kids and whether or not they want to educate them in a different way, which always kind of impresses me, like, wow, way to have some serious forethought. Yeah.
So what kind of things are what are some of the core things you're trying to get across then on what that education might look like?
Right. Well, of course, every year we answer the how do you socialize question. And then, of course, we always dive into finances and how to make it work, and what does education actually look like when you're traveling, or when you're an expat, or even at home and just trying to educate somebody outside of the public school system. I think the most important takeaway every year is that no one does it the same way. You know, we're all out here doing the best we can with the resources that we have. And it can be really easy to see other people via Instagram or social media or blogs and get this sense that there's one right way to do it and everybody else is nailing it. So I think each year we really try to just bash that myth. Like, we're all, screwing it up in some way, but we're all doing the best we can. So, yeah.
Can you talk more about the socialization? Because obviously part of that is wherever you are, getting out and participating in sports or theatre or whatever. But there's also, in the last 5 years plus, the internet allowing for that socialization. What are some of the ways that you've seen that work well, especially for parents today, that in the next 6 months, that is going to be their kids' socialization? How do they best manage that?
Well, with FAS specifically, there's been a really cool network of teens that have grown out of it, and they're constantly communicating. My younger brother Ezra is always online with his friends from FAS, and they chat and they hang out. So the internet definitely opens up a lot of possibilities. I know many families, their kids do online gaming together, which helps. But there's other things too. There's reading clubs, there's coding groups, all sorts of things. So even just starting online, there's plenty of opportunities. But of course, we all know you have to meet up in person too. Otherwise, it's just not enough. So many of the families will actually host pop-ups throughout the year and meet up in different parts of the world. That's been a really cool opportunity that's come up just in like the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years. It wasn't really a thing when I was a kid. So I think it's getting easier with time as people are getting more and more connected and the community gets bigger.
Right. Nice. I have to say, on Thursday, we had a singer on, interviewing her, and she was playing some songs, and I think it was then, but it might have been, she might have said it a couple of days earlier, but she used the word petrichor, which is still, my kid, who was, how old was she? She was 4 when she met you, and you taught us the word petrichor coming out of a car somewhere, and she has not forgotten that. Still remembers that as your word.
What does petrichor mean?
It's the smell of the rain. It's so, like, when the rain hits the earth, it releases this chemical, and it smells like petrichor. Yeah.
Okay. Hannah, teaching me something new every time we talk.
Hannah, I just realized I've been following you on Instagram for years.
Oh my gosh, really?
Because my former company was called Adventure, and I taught education leadership through overseas travel, like Asia, South Africa, everywhere. And I remember, like, coming across Adventure Girl. I was like, who's this? And it was like, but I read like your blogs, and then as we were talking, I was actually just trying to find out like your website to find out a little bit more about what you do. So I was Facebook.
I'm just stealing your name,
Yeah. I was stalking, and I saw Adventure Girl. I was like, I know that person. Hi, nice to meet you here. What a funny small world it is.
That's so wild. Hannah was the first HRT talk I saw.
So funny.
Yeah, Thomas walked in on the second day, and you were the first talk he saw.
That's very true.
That was the first talk I ever gave. I remember my clicker malfunctioned, and I started waving it around like a lightsaber, and everyone laughed, but I was like, oh my gosh.
So Ethan, what were some of the memories you had of that Hero Roundtable? I'm not going to tell you my memories of you. What are some of the memories you had?
Let's see. I remember. I think it was it a Saturday? Was it on a Saturday, right?
Yeah.
Because I think Friday, I went to school, and I think I was still in middle school at the time, and I got out, and we drove over, and I was sitting in the back seat of our car, and I had a computer, and I had like my script, my PowerPoint presentation laid out, and I was rehearsing it, and my dad was sitting in the front seat and like asking me the questions and helping me prepare for it. So that was kind of funny. And then we went to a restaurant. There was a dinner. I remember that, and we were talking. I can't remember. I was talking with a couple guys, and they were super cool. And then the next morning we went back to the hotel, and then I remember waking up early. My dad woke me up early to go over the presentation a couple more times to make sure I was fresh and I was ready to go. And then what else was there? There were some great presentations.
I think you killed it though. Your talk
enjoyed.
was you had no problems, right?
Was it? To be honest, it was when I get presentations, it's like a flash for me. It's like I don't remember actually doing it. It's the same, like, I don't know, it's just something with me. When I play soccer too, like if you try to yell for me from the sidelines, like I won't hear you. Like it's just, I'm locked in. So but yeah, I just remember it was an awesome atmosphere. It's kind of like one of the first conferences that I had been to, and so many of the speeches were super inspirational, and you know, people, I just remember everybody being super passionate about the content that they were delivering, which is awesome. And so I think beforehand too, I was backstage with Nolan Harrison, and seeing him kind of like walk through his steps of what he was about to present, and that was kind of cool. And yeah, met a lot of cool people, and everyone. I think the coolest thing was everyone was so nice and was happy to be there, and super interactive, and the atmosphere was just everything that you would want out of what was happening and what was going on. So yeah, some good memories right there.
What about you, Jeremiah?
I remember a lot from it. I remember meeting Ari for the first time, and how he was a whirlwind. He was a whirlwind, but I think he had one less kid at that time.
I think 3 less.
Like every time I turned a corner, he would be there, and I would just like see it, and I'd be thinking like, I mean, I literally just saw you like across the building. How did you get here before me? And he looked like all settled down and everything in that area. And he was doing a lot. It was great. I also remember a bunch of the people from the audience. There was a guy, Eric Thomas.
Yep.
And I think he spoke at a Hero Roundtable the next year.
I don't know that he actually gave a talk in the end. I think he came again, but I don't think he gave a talk. But
okay. No, but he and I talked a long time at the like closing lunch, and he was a really inspirational dude. And then Zach Malamed, who was one of the speakers, he was a couple years older than me, and he had this really cool organization called Student Voice, and that thing's absolutely exploded into this massive thing in America. They're incredibly powerful, and so it's really cool to be able to say, hey, I met Zach Malamed almost a decade ago.
What about you, Hannah? I remember there's a photo that I use from time to time of you talking to, God, I'm blanking on his name, Stephen, the ninja.
The ninja.
You were in your the clothes you made and talking to it was like the elf girl talking to the old ninja guy.
There were so many cool people at that. Do you remember, what was her name? She was like in her 80s and she outdanced us all on the stage.
Edith?
Remember that?
Edith.
That was fantastic.
Oh,
Edith.
Yeah,
we remember her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Edith was at the one in San Francisco too, and she just commands an audience all the time. She's this little woman, and another great photo that we've got is Thomas and a few other people sitting on the floor just looking up at her when she was in the hotel lobby. Just cool woman. What else? Hannah, what's what are your thoughts and the family's thoughts on travel now with this happening? Do you think there's going to be, well, have you talked about what the effect of this is going to have on travel afterwards?
I mean, of course, I'm thinking about that all the time, as I've been yanked out of it
Right.
with 2 days notice. I was actually like in a really remote mountaintop village in Turkey when Trudeau was like, hey, you guys need to all come back here pretty much ASAP. And I thought, oh, it's not that big of a deal. It's probably an overreaction, but I'll just check flights, just to see. And there was one from Istanbul home for $500. I'm like, all right, fine. I'll book it in the morning. The next morning, it was $2,000, the same flight. I'm like, okay, maybe it's time to start taking it seriously. Yeah, but now I don't know. Depends on when borders reopen, when flights reopen, and then I kind of have been wondering about the effect it's going to have on how local people see Westerners. Like, are we going to be seen as a danger and a threat if we start traveling again pretty soon, or is that an overreaction? Like, will people be like cool with it? I'm not sure. I'm really curious to hear you guys' thoughts as well.
There's a balance there, isn't there, that people will be, worried about that transmission, but also we need tourist dollars back pronto, What do you think, Christy, with you've done a lot of travel and in Nicaragua?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the country here in Nicaragua, like where I live, is a tourist destination, and most people here have lost their jobs because, all the gringos who live here, the people who own hotels, there's just no tourists here. Even though Nicaragua hasn't actually acknowledged there's a virus yet and is hosting huge parades, idiot president, but I don't know. I can't see the local Nicaraguans here having a sense of fear because there's so much good, at least from what I see with the local communities here, that's being brought in with tourism, not just like the economy, but opportunities for education. There's a few surf teams here that are all local Nicaraguan surf teams that have gone national. Girls surf teams that have gone, I don't think they're as far advanced as the guys, but rugby, like there's so much that's done in the world of sports, jobs, education, health here. And I can't see them at all having a sense of like, get out with your diseases sort of mentality. In fact, their president here, who's like forcing mandatory marches for government officials to celebrate love and peace in the time of COVID. The local Nicaraguans, the communities, they're wearing their masks. They're encouraging people to wash their hands. I went to the bank and the armed security guard like squirted alcohol in my hands, washed my hands before I went in. Like, they're like, let's just, whatever the president says is crap. They're actually being smart about it, smarter than I see a lot of Americans are acting, actually. We're not hoarding, we're like sharing and being healthy, and America's hoarding guns and toilet paper. So anyway, that's my 2 cents.
So I'm going to ask you guys to just give one sort of finished what you're doing next, and if anyone can help you get there, what they can do to help. I talk about you three in my presentations all around the world still as examples. So thanks for that material. Having you there in those first couple really established that we need to have young people at the event. And I remember at the first one, one of my mentors, who's passed away since, said, this is really good, and I can see lots of people are giving you attention and they want you to do another one, but I want you to remember that the most important thing to continue is having youth here on the stage and in the audience. And I've fought for that ever since. So thank you guys for being that leadership right at the start, or that example right at the start. So what's a closing thought, Ethan? What are you up to next, and what can people help with?
It's a great question. Thanks for it, Matt. So I kind of talked about it a little bit and got into it. We're focused on this United 19 campaign, which is working with our Mozambican communities and mobilizing the people and working on coronavirus detection, prevention, giving them access to clean drinking water, and in education as well, which is a big thing. So if you go to charityball.org, you can check out the details. Obviously, it's a tough time for a lot of small businesses and even bigger businesses, you know, with laying people off. And so what we're focused on right now is more of a grassroots movement of just kind of spreading the word through, you know, text, call, and social media, and just getting people to do smaller, you know, $10 to $25 donations, because I think a lot of individuals are capable of stuff like that. And so it's kind of cool to go that route too, because so often I'm working on getting larger people and larger donors involved, which is a little bit more of a process, whereas this is just it's yeah, like I said, it's more grassroots, and it's personable too. So yeah, that's what we're working on. We got the soccer park, you know, down the line, further down the timeline. We had to push that back a little bit, unfortunately, but I'm really excited for completing that and seeing where that goes. So yeah, that's the word.
Cool. And are you on target for an MLS debut anytime soon?
That's no longer in the picture. Soccer's been amazing. I love soccer. It's a great game. I love athletics and everything about it. I think the opportunities that it gives people and kids especially is you know, is super rewarding, and an experience that you have to be thankful for. But there comes a time where you have to put the games away, and that time has come. So I'm going into my senior year. I'm ready to be finishing out strong, and then you know, sticking to the men's leagues. So maybe we can get some indoor going someday, Matt.
Yeah, I'll stand in goal.
Huge. That would be huge.
Jeremiah, how about you?
So we're just we're figuring out how we can adapt to the COVID stuff. A lot of employers in the world are saying, "Hey, stay home." The people who enslave children are not saying that, but we all have to stay home right now. The people who go out into the field, and the people who do my sort of stuff, which is back end, we're all working from home right now. So we have to fix that, because the work is in the field, but we're all home. Right now, we just started a partnership with the UN. They passed a resolution a couple years ago, 2250, which is about the global status of youth. So we started a partnership with them because an important part of the global status of youth is that they're not enslaved, that they can just play or get educated or really do anything besides work in a factory or a field. So that's an exciting new frontier. We're still figuring out, again, how COVID-19 blocks my work, but also informs my work and creates new opportunities for us. And with anti-bullying, we are working on actually getting more cell phones and more mobile devices out to young people, not just so that they can fight cyberbullying, but then they can also use it for other stuff with their education and innovation.
Nice. Jeremiah, have you got some websites you can drop in the chat?
Yes, I can. Well, my website went down, but it'll be up by tomorrow.
All right. Well, Thomas is asking for it, so he can check it out. Hannah, what about you? Obviously, this has paused your plans, but what do you hope to do when the world rights itself?
Well, don't get me wrong, I still have plenty going on. I'm already planning the next FAS teen program, so I guess a way that could potentially, like, we could move forward and would be helpful. Just send me all your resources, send me all of your links. I want to be able to tell my kids about these things and, you know, these other people that are doing incredible things in the world. So as much as you want to share, please do. And then the other more immediate thing that I'm working on right now is one of my nonprofits that I work with in Guatemala is having a very critical time right now. I don't know if you know, Guatemala's been completely shut down. Like, even public transportation, every form of transportation is shut down, including like how they're getting food to people. So the nonprofit can't officially be running right now, but the community is still working really hard to try to get resources to everyone and make sure the most at-risk members of the community get through this. So I'm working with those guys. as much as I can from here. And yeah, we'll see what happens over the next few months.
Right. Can you put those links in the site, in the chat as well, for the charity and for the
Yeah,
summit?
absolutely.
So I have a feeling that the summit, again, could be something very interesting for people who are experiencing this different schooling and might want to continue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you all. Thank the three of you for being here, and thanks to the viewers again. And yeah, I'm thrilled to be able to connect with you all again, and so glad you're still doing great stuff in the world.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you, man.
And you.
Thanks.
All right. We'll talk again soon.
Stay safe,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.